A very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining our Homeopathy 24/7 podcast. We are going to be speaking to an array of international guests who will share their knowledge and experiences of homeopathy with you. We will discuss all types of subjects such as remedies, symptoms, and stories of health. No matter where you are with your homeopathic journey, we aim to inspire you on your quest to natural health and living. The podcast is brought to you by Mary Greensmith, the founder of Homeopathy 24/7, which is a global platform connecting you with a homeopath wherever you are in the world, 24 hours a day. So let's get started with today's chat. Please welcome Mary Greensmith.
Hello, lovely to see you. It's great that you can join us today, and I am so pleased to be able to welcome Sunita Venchard, homeopath and author, and just telling us a little bit more about particular remedies, about cases, and about learning and understanding the remedies by storytelling. Welcome, Sunita. Nice to see you.
Oh, it's nice to see you, Mary. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to talking about the case studies from my practice and just expanding upon the idea that, it really helps to cement a remedy in your head when you hear a case study. I know when I was at college, and even now when I listen to people talking about case studies, I find that if they talk about the remedy first and then they talk about a case study, it really helps to bring it to life. And so that's what I'm hoping to do today.
Brilliant. And I absolutely agree with you. If you hear a good story, you never forget that remedy, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, when you read a remedy, it's like a bunch of disconnected symptoms, and it's really hard to put them in context. But when you read about a person who's actually needed that remedy for a particular set of conditions, then it just helps to join them all together, and it really helps to create a visual picture that I think helps you to understand it and remember it.
Yes, you're so right, because of course we've got not only the physical symptoms, but we've got a whole lot of emotional things going on as well, haven't we? And if we can put them together in a character, into a story, into a case, then we have got everything.
Absolutely.
Okay, where are we going to start?
So I'm going to start by talking about a case of vertigo that I treated with the remedy Cocculus Indicus. Now, this was a lady who, she's, in her 40s, she's got 5 children, and, I've treated herself and her whole family, and she contacted me for nausea and dizziness that had been going on for some time, well, a few days, in fact. It was really debilitating, and she struggled to move around, and she was feeling really weepy and anxious. At the time, that we spoke, her symptoms were that every time she moved her head, particularly up and down, it made the dizziness worse, and she felt like the room was spinning. And then she started feeling nauseous, and she actually started to throw up. Her symptoms, she said, were much better if she kept still. And, as long as she didn't move her head, then she felt better. But at the same time, when she was lying down, she felt like the room was spinning. So there was a bit of contradiction there. And she said that she just had to keep moving her head a little bit, as if to focus on something to refix it so that she wouldn't feel dizzy. So she even found that if she looked at something, even though she was sitting still, if she looked at something moving, like if she looked at a moving car, then again, she would get this feeling of dizziness and vertigo. So at that time, it was just an acute case. I firstly prescribed bryonia because a lot of her symptoms were much better keeping still. And the keynote of bryonia is that when you keep still, everything feels better.
Yeah.
So that helped a bit, but the vertigo was still really strong. So then we went into it in a little bit more detail, and I took her case a bit more at length. And I asked her to describe what her vertigo had been like and what had been going on for the few weeks before the vertigo started. And, she was a busy woman. She had 5 children. And we started talking about her sleep. And she said she couldn't remember the last time she'd had a full night's sleep. You can imagine, with 5 consecutive children, It was only by the time one had grown up a little that the next one came along, and then obviously the sleepless nights started again. So she found that what happened was she never really got into a deep sleep. She found that even when the children were a bit older, she was always listening out and waiting to hear some kind of noise or if there's something was happening. So she was, really into sort of a very half asleep limbo type state. So that's what made me then look at the remedy Cocculus Indicus, because this is a remedy that is fantastic for caregivers. It's called the Caregiver remedy.
Yes.
I'm sure you've experienced that as well, Mary.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people who are looking after people during the night as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it really is for anybody, and particularly for parents with newborn children. I've used it for myself included. I mean, it was really useful when I had my daughter, and, being a new mum, myself and my husband were awake, for nights upon nights. And for me, Cocculus saved my sanity because it just made me feel normal again. And before taking it, I felt a bit, almost like a zombie in some ways, just going into automatic mode through the day. So I looked at this remedy for this lady, and, it fit her symptoms really well because it was for ailments that have come on from sleep deprivation and for looking after others. And, she was always worried about her children, and it's a great remedy for worries that come on, at night, and for constantly worrying about somebody else, to the point where you can't actually relax into sleep. And then at the same time, what happens is, and I'm sure a lot of people have had this experience, where when you don't sleep properly for such a long time, you almost feel like, you're too wired to sleep.
Yeah.
And so when you try to sleep, you're kind of constantly thinking, I'm going to fall off to sleep and then I wake up again, and that's the feeling behind Cocculus Indicus. They feel too wired, or they only sleep in a very light sort of half limbo type sleep. It's also because of that, because it's a great vertigo remedy, and I think the two are very linked. When you're tired and you're sort of, haven't slept very well, you don't feel steady on your feet, and and that, I think, is where the vertigo and the nausea starts to come in. And as a result, you can almost see why it's a great remedy for seasickness or motion sickness. So it covers those aspects as well. So I gave her Cocculus Indicus, and within a day, her vertigo was much better. She said that she was able to start moving around her house slowly. And, prior to this, she was literally stuck in a chair. And every time she moved, she just felt so awful that she couldn't do anything. So within a day, she was moving around her house slowly. And then she carried on taking it for a few days. And after a week, she said she almost felt, she felt back to normal, and she was able to carry on. And her sleep was so much better. And she was sleeping deeply. And she said that, one of her children had to come and actually pull on her to wake her up one day because she was sleeping so deeply. And normally she would have heard them creeping up the stairs and she would have known instantly that they were awake.
Yes.
And so this remedy, in a low potency, actually lasted for quite a long time. But I think about a month or two later, she came back and she said that it was getting a bit worse again. So I gave her a higher strength. And since then, she hasn't had another occurrence, of that vertigo. So it was a great remedy for, her sleeplessness.
What I love about that is just the picture came up in my head of knocking your health out of balance.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, because that just is what happened, isn't it? And as you say, Cocculus had every element of that, but it wasn't until you had the other part of the story where it really came into its own.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this shows you that, sometimes when we're looking at treating, as I did, I looked at bryonia because it kind of fit. But it wasn't until I understood the cause that I could find the right remedy. And so that's why you can look at remedies and they all seem to be indicated, but it's not until you delve deeper and you actually find the right causation that you can find a remedy that really works.
You're absolutely right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, that was and I think Cocculus is just a fantastic remedy, and I think for new parents particularly, it's a great remedy to have in your toolkit. You know, when you have a newborn, it really helps lots of days of feeling that you're not going mad.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And actually we do use this remedy quite a lot, don't we? A lot more so than you first think of as an acute remedy. So brilliant story. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. So the next case that I'm going to talk about is probably a more unusual remedy that I'm not sure. I mean, I certainly hadn't used it very much when I had this case. And it's a remedy called Capsicum Annum. Now, Capsicum Annum is actually made from cayenne pepper. So it's a chili pepper.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you think about a chili pepper, you know, you can imagine if you think about how homeopathic remedies, you know, are made and how we use the, you know, analogy of like cures like.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, you eat a chili pepper and you get burning, don't you?
Yeah, we've got hot, burning, all those symptoms going on with pepper, have we? I haven't used it much, you're right.
Yeah, so you know, you can imagine that it would be a case where burning would come up.
Yes.
So this was a really interesting case of a lady who was in her 70s, and she was suffering from a UTI, a urinary tract infection, and she'd been suffering from it for a few days when I took her case. Now, she was an Indian lady living in England, and that's significant, you know, as we look further into the case. Now, her main symptoms that she came to me were that she had burning all the time at the front of her urethra. Wasn't a minute of the day that she didn't have burning. So actually, you know, like with some urinary tract infections, you have burning at the end of urination or at the beginning or the middle or after or before. But for her, it was burning all the time. She said there was a very slight relief after she urinated, and she had a frequent desire to urinate. The pain was really very uncomfortable, as you can imagine, all the time, and she felt that she was very you know, she couldn't sit still. She had to keep moving around, and actually walking around was the only thing that gave her a bit of relief. So, you know, she had tried, she was knowledgeable about homeopathy, and, you know, the first remedy she tried herself was cantharis. Now, we all, I think, you know, if you've ever treated a urinary tract infection, cantharis is the first remedy that often comes up. It has that burning, has that restlessness, has that pain. But what she found was it was helping, it took the edge off it, but it didn't really improve it for any length of time. So that's when she contacted me. So we, you know, I talked to her and I was asking her, well, what happened before the UTI came on? And she was saying, well, you know, nothing that she could think of. That's always the first answer I get from patients. They say, oh, there's nothing significant. There's nothing that I can think of that would actually have caused this. So I said, just describe to me what was going on. You know, what did you do for those few days? And she said, well, you know, there'd been quite a bit of toing and froing in the household because there'd been a wedding celebration in India. And lots of her family had been calling her up and telling her about it. She hadn't been able to go. And she said, well, you know, it was a bit sad, really, because she said that they were all going to this wedding. They were all coming back from it and telling her how they saw so-and-so and this was so lovely. And we got to, you know, and the wedding was so lovely. The bride looked like this, the groom, you know, it was just a lovely experience. And she suddenly felt really sad that she couldn't be there.
Of course.
You know, she wasn't with her family, and, you know, she felt really left out, and that she just wished that she could be there. So, you know, I took this into consideration because in a way that feeling of kind of almost homesickness and nostalgia is what she was kind of feeling, is quite a big emotional cause, I think. So I asked her more about the burning pains, and, you know, she said the one thing that really sort of helped to confirm it, and I'm sure you've had cases like this where they almost tell you the remedy.
Yes.
And, what she said to me, I said to her, tell me more about the burning. And she said, she said, it feels like somebody's sprinkled chili pepper over the front of my urethra. And that's what it feels like. It's like an open wound and someone's sprinkled chili pepper over it. So I looked into, homesickness and nostalgia, and there in front of me was capsicum, and then the burning all the time. And, it just fit everything. And it was such a lovely case because it fit the causation of the homesickness, the nostalgia. It's not a remedy you would think about for homesickness or nostalgia.
No.
And see all the burning. And, I prescribed capsicum annum for her. And, within a few hours, her burning started to subside.
Yeah.
The frequent urination improved. The next day, she was way better, and her mood had really improved as well, and she felt happier. So, that's a remedy that I think, you could look at now and use, because if you ever have a patient which has got burning pains, and it doesn't have to be restricted to urination problems, UTIs, it could be burning in the throat, it could be burning in the eyes, it could be burning in the mouth. But also, if you ever have that feeling, and people can get very, very sad and depressed with, nostalgia. It can come on, even if they move home and they feel like they're longing for the old house that they lived in, they're missing relatives abroad, and then you get this burning with it as well, then certainly, capsicum is a remedy that I would look at.
Yeah, that we certainly should be considering. And isn't it strange that we don't use this remedy more?
No. I mean, I think I've only used it twice in, my practice. And the first time, I don't think I even used it for homesickness. And I didn't actually know that about it until I sort of read this case.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, I looked more into capsicum after I took this case. And, there's lots of, even in conventional medicine, there's a cream called capsaicin, which is made from chili peppers, which is not complete, obviously that's one element of it.
Yeah.
And it's used for like arthritic problems where people have swelling in the joints, etc. So you can imagine that this remedy would also be useful for sort of arthritic and rheumatic complaints where there's swelling and perhaps burning pains in the joints as well.
Yes, certainly, as an anti-inflammatory. Just as you used turmeric.
Absolutely.
Certainly we need to investigate this remedy more. But what a lovely case. She must have been so thankful because, of course, UTIs can be the most excruciating pain ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And, she hadn't been able to sleep properly for a few days because she just couldn't settle because that burning was there all the time, So it's great that something, remedy that causes burning alleviated her burning, which is what, the wonder of homeopathy, isn't it?
Exactly what homeopathy is, isn't it? With like curing like, and how amazing that actually their words lead you to the right remedy as well. And often we have to really listen so carefully to the words that they're using.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought, when she said that, it was just, it was just an amazing moment that she just literally told me the remedy. And I thought, and sometimes that happens in consultations and it's all great. It's like the patient, somewhere in the patient, they know what they need. And you just have to have the process of sort of getting that information from them.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And we find this a lot, don't we, with calc carb and sepia and references to the sea. People using quotes and just their speech referencing to particular areas that the remedy comes from.
Yes, which is beautiful, which is lovely. There's so much kind of synergy in that, that that the remedy that they need is expressed in the language that they use.
Yeah, exactly. And this, of course, leads exactly to writing books and stories about homeopathic remedies, doesn't it? Which, of course, you have done with your first novel, which is already out. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, yes, as an extension of what I've just been doing, illustrating remedies by the use of case studies, which I kind of see as storytelling. I wrote a novel where all the characters are based on homeopathic remedies to bring them to life in a way that is palpable and a way that helps you to understand their motivations, their causations, their symptoms, and helps you to kind of remember them. But also, well, so that you can see how they interact with other characters, so you can see what they would do in certain circumstances, because that helps you to understand a remedy and choose a remedy when you understand how a person interacts in the world. So the novel, as I said, is called Revive, and it's out there on Amazon at the moment. And I'm hoping to write this. Well, I have started writing the sequel, because lots of people are saying, "Oh, when is the sequel coming out?" Is the sequel coming out? It's a action adventure fantasy book with a touch of romance, and it really, I just wanted to convey the magic and excitement of homeopathy in a way that everyone can enjoy it. You don't have to have any knowledge about homeopathy to read it, but if you do, you can read it on another level, and it just helps to bring it to life. So it's certainly, if you like listening to remedies through case studies, then you'll love reading this book, because that's just an extension of what we're talking about today.
Such a brilliant idea, such a fantastic way of learning the remedies as well. And I know when we were at college, we were asked to watch certain films and asked, which remedies this character and this character, and so it makes sense to put it into stories and bring that to life. So we'll put the details of the book down below, and please, if you're interested in homeopathy, you are going to love reading this book from so many levels. And just enjoy this beautiful way of learning about the remedies.
Yeah, it's had a great response, and there's lots of great reviews on Amazon, and one of the main is people couldn't put it down. So I even had a review the other day where somebody said they got up at 3:30 in the morning to finish it. So that's a real compliment. That's a huge compliment. So I really hope that more people will read it and learn more about homeopathy that way. So
absolutely. And please, when you buy this book, do leave a review, because it does make a big difference, both for homeopathy books and, of course, to help Sunita here, so that she can get on with the next one.
I would really appreciate that. Definitely. Thanks, Mary, for saying that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This is such good fun, Sunita. We need to do this more often. Will you come back and talk to us about some more cases?
Yes, I've got quite a few. I've got several more cases that we can talk about. So, if you want to, I'd love to come back and talk about some more, definitely.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Lovely seeing you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary, for having me. That was lovely.
Thank you so much, Sunita. It's been so brilliant just talking with you and going through these cases. And I'm sure that everybody will agree that this is what we want. We want more stories. We want to understand the characters. We want to understand the character of the remedy. And storytelling is definitely the way forward with this. Now, next week, we will be talking to Paula Webb. Paula is a brilliant homeopath, and she spends a lot of time working with clients with very difficult complaints, diagnosis such as POTS, and of course now long COVID. So please do join us next week, and you can meet Paula and find out how homeopathy can help people with really quite severe chronic diagnosis. I look forward to seeing you there.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and look forward to listening to our next one. Please don't forget to follow our podcast on your chosen channel, and please do leave us a review so we can continue to share homeopathy with as many people as possible. If you do have any questions, please do reach out to us on any of our social platforms mentioned in the show notes. We at Homeopathy 24/7 hope to empower you on your natural health journey.